must stop fighting to achieve the peace that was taught in our country. We shall all be free. Follow me. Why don't you follow me?
We're in downtown Manchester, Center Park. I have a great friend of mine. Matter of fact, he's like a father, a mentor to me. His name is Thurman L. Milner. He was the first black mayor of New England. And we're going to ask him some questions towards education. Thurman, thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
The educational system in Connecticut versus in Manchester, what are some of the similarities and differences of how we can take some of the energies that you have your own school in the toughest part of the north of Hartford, and how can we bring these energies to actually to Manchester?
Well, I think number one, there's not much difference in some of the areas of Manchester than in Hartford. You have the same type of problem with the children that are underserved and undereducated that have fallen between the cracks. And your program will be able to bring them out, not to give them a handout, but a hands up.
Right now, since we've been in Manchester for a little over a year, you can see there's a disparity or something is really not clicking or gelling together. How can we bring actually this together versus as we did in Hartford?
Well, number one, I think Manchester is a very unique town. It's a tough town as far as diversity and integration is concerned. And you really have to work to pull people together. It's not going to be an easy project, but I think once they see what your program does, they'll be able to embrace it and really welcome you into the town.
You know, when we was in Hartford, we went from a neighborhood project to a community project. We was in the toughest part of the north of Hartford, as Vine Street School was. That actually now is actually Thurman L. Milner School, which is the last of the community schools. But let me ask you this. Since you've been out here for a while and worked with me for the last over a year, what's some of the things that MC Square should actually do to try to bring the town together, Manchester together?
One of the things I think what you've been doing is very good as far as meeting with different people. Maybe a community forum might help, where you can actually address the parents and talk to them about what your program is about. Talk to some more of the religious leaders in the community and any community action people that may be in Manchester. I'm not too familiar with Manchester, but I'm sure there's some people in the community that could be very helpful.
We're going to bring Thurman Milner back next month to give you an update exactly what's going on with the Manchester Four Walls Project. We want the viewers and the audience to know exactly, one, where we're going with the Four Walls Project in Manchester. Number two, how much money we're raising, because we need your help. And number three, exactly how the project is really actually faring out, the assessment and evaluation of the whole project since we've been working this over a year. We're really attuned in this project in Connecticut. We want you to know exactly what's going on out in Manchester, Connecticut. Our second guest is one of my favorite students of the last 12 years. He's still with me. He's a student at CCSU. He's a mentor. He's a counselor. He's originally from Dorchester, Massachusetts. His name is Marcus Harris, and he's my favorite. And when you listen to this young man, believe me, this man has a million-watt bulb. Welcome to the show. The younger generation, you're in your 20s, but I'm talking about the kids anywhere between 15 and 19, that minority that actually has to harness education to get where they have to be in today's world.
Okay, well, I know about probably 5 years ago, I did a teen talk on Granby Street in Hartford. And those kids, they were probably about 12, 13, 14. So now I think they would fall into that range of 15 to 19. And those kids, I would say, they had all the enthusiasm and energies that needed to be had to get their own education and have their own motivation. They were talking about wanting to be lawyers and doctors and everything, and that's where it starts. So at some point, either in themselves or at home, whether maybe even both, they have that motivation in them, and that's what most of these kids need. Most of these kids coming from homes that don't have an educational history. So most of these kids, they're going to turn to the street to turn to fun versus education. And whenever you have fun versus education, then progress is not going to be made, because when fun comes first, then your education is being put aside. And so later in life, when you do need to get that education, it's going to be harder because like a sponge, when you're a kid, you're like a sponge, and we absorb all the information. So, and it's important for our parents to get involved, or else nothing is going to be successful.
You have a company named Soul to Soul. How can your arts and entertainment company help you through education, since you're a major in communications? How did it help you up to now?
Well, see, soul is not just arts and entertainment. Soul is also communication. Soul is also we do as far as, you know, obviously poetry is entertainment, but we do as education as well. As coming with you, you know, I was a mentor already, and I've worked with kids on school buses, in the school. I even mentored some adults in college. So, Soul to Soul didn't necessarily just start off as an educational source. It actually started off as a need for people to come together and just to be able to fellowship and know that there are like-minded people and be able to trust each other, because that's where everything starts. If you want to learn something, you want to be able to trust that the person who's teaching you is teaching you the right stuff that you would want to know that's going to benefit your life. So Soul also helped us to determine and reevaluate other people and see them for who they really are, as well as see ourselves for who we really are, by opening ourselves up to each other. And that's how we could be able to tell if other people are real with us or not. And going from there, we're being able to educate ourselves, reading up. Anytime somebody writes a poem, anytime somebody writes a song, any reference they make into it, we make sure we look that up. So we know what we're talking about when we talk about it, and everyone had to look it up. So everything was about research on your own, teaching your own self, but we as a group taught each other to individually teach ourselves, and that's what has to happen.
I'm going to ask you one question which is dear to me. And the way you actually was brought up through your mom in Boston, coming through Hartford, through MC Square program, throughout Connecticut, how can your energies help the students in Manchester right now?
Well, first, you know, there has to be an openness to accept the energies. Then, I mean, how can it help with it? In many ways. Manchester right now is lacking culture, you know. The energies I have could bring so much culture. The people that I have behind me in arts and entertainment, there's people, I got people from India, people from Ireland, you know, people from right here, people from California, people from Boston, like myself, people from Florida, Georgia, down south, anywhere. So not only is the diversity there, but we do have culture. Even if it's, you know, a white person culturally, you know, Indian, or a black person culturally Hispanic, that culture is there. And that's what we want to try to bring to Manchester. If they accept it, then great. If they don't, then, you know, we can't force them to. You know, nobody's going to force feed them the information that they need to be fed if they don't want it, you know. But at the same time, ignorance is not bliss. You know, if you stay in an ignorant stage, you're going to become in the Stone Age, and you're not going to be excelling to the full extent that the future minds should be excelling to, and I'm talking about the kids.
Marcus Harris, this gentleman right next to me, has been with me for a number of years. He's going to be one of the tutors and mentors in the Four Walls Manchester project. And when we come back next month, trust me, Marcus is going to have a lot of great things to say about the kids that are coming in, and he's been there himself. I was his mentor, tutor. I've been there for him. And believe me, the road is long, but the reward is great. And I know Marcus is going to be doing some great things with us in the next coming years. The next gentleman I have, his name is Phil Susak. He has actually been a resident of Manchester, Connecticut for a number of years. He's astute, he's smart, the guy is quick, and the thing about it is, one thing I like about this gentleman, that he knows Manchester like the grip of the back of his hand. Mr. Susak, welcome to the show.
Thank you. You're exaggerating a little, but that's all right.
Let me ask you the first question. The overall scope of Manchester, what do you think about the overall scope of Manchester of education?
I think it's really very good. It's been an interesting history, and interesting because of its diversity and the way it has grown and not grown over the years. Is challenging. Okay. But being a once upon a time member of the Board of Education, why I see some differences, and I see some differences that are plus and some that I'm not so sure of.
A week and a half ago, and you asked me a question, it stayed in the back of my mind about diversity, or we could call it racism. Either way, what do you think about this particular problem that we have in Manchester?
Well, I don't really want to call it racism because it expands beyond that.
Okay.
It's diversity. Now, Manchester is a very diverse community, socially, economically, educationally, ethnically, religiously, racially, everything. But we are really not the kind of community that we used to be. We're a group of little groups within a geographical town, which ought to be a community. And my principal effort right now these days is trying to do something to bring all these various little groups together and try to get back to being a community while recognizing all of the diversity.
I know education is actually a core inside of you, and you like to see things grow and move. What can you and others can do to help out the different pockets of Manchester today? What can you do?
First thing to do is get them talking to each other.
Okay.
In the same room about whatever questions there are in a civil kind of way. And actually, we started a deliberate effort to do that again last spring, where the summer slowed us down. I hope we're going to do a little better come this fall and get to it. We're working with the Chamber of Commerce. We're working with some of the clergy people and with the Community Services Council, which I'm also part of. And see how we make out. We have no idea how successful we're going to be, but we're going to try.
When you're looking at the program that MC Square is trying to bring in, does this fit into Manchester, or if you think this would be a good fit for Manchester for the MC Square program?
I think the answer is potentially yes. It's not the answer, but it does fit into the concept of bringing the diverse community somewhat closer together. Because as I understand what you're talking about, which is really not very extensive at this point, it does bring together kids from all of the kinds of groups that we're talking about. And that's a help. If you have kids talking to each other, pretty soon their parents start talking to each other too.
I have a great man with me. He's been with me for 9 years. He's actually, I call him the fireman. He's best when the heat is on. His name is Dale Gustafson. He's actually way of California, Minnesota, Arizona. He's worldwide. But one thing about it, he's tough as nails. And Mr. Dale is a volunteer of the MC Square Board. Welcome to the show, Mr. Dale.
Thank you, Sam, very much.
Let me ask you a question. Since we've been out in Manchester and we're trying to develop the Manchester Four Walls Project, what do you think is actually your overall view of how we can get where we have to be with this program?
Well, I'd actually like to follow on what Mr. Susag was talking about, and that is bringing together these kids. Because if we can get these kids into this program, the Four Walls Project, then we will be getting automatically to their parents or their guardians or whomever. And I've always been a believer in the fact that if we can work with the kids, then the results will follow. I do understand that this is not Hartford. Hartford was a neighborhood. Everyone in Hartford could walk to everything that was being run by MC2. Here in Manchester, it's a totally different story. And so not only from the process point of view, but also from the economic point of view, it's a much different kind of entity that we're proceeding with here. But we're working to get the program underway. I fully believe, as I know you do, that if year one goes with all of its evaluations and assessments and the involvement of the people that the program calls for, year one will lead to years 2, 3, and 4, and we will be underway.
This is something that we talked about many times in the meeting together, is tell the viewers or the audience how unique this program is.
Well, it's unique, first of all, from its founding, because Samuel, who's our host here, is actually the one who has put the program together. And it's been put together through many, many visits to many locations throughout the United States, including Indian reservations, not only urban areas of some of our major cities, but Indian reservations as well. So from the beginning, the program is one that calls upon the experiences and strong points of all of these other programs. But then when it's put together here, the uniqueness is that we are working, many programs have tutors and students. I'm not sure that they have tutors and students on a 2-to-1 ratio, very high ratio. We have specialized topics that follow, so it's more than a tutoring program. And one of the primary focuses from the beginning has been financial literacy, which even within our own Connecticut state government has never been seen as a key subject to be studied. In fact, I had said at one point there were a couple years recently when the legislature did not pass resolutions that dealt with financial literacy. I've since done some more reading and have learned that not only has it been the last 2 years, but the last 5 or 6, where resolutions have been introduced, all of which have lost. Many other things are seen as being requirements for graduation. Financial literacy has never been part of that. This financial literacy has been part of MC2 from the beginning. And when I talk about financial literacy, I'm not just talking about personal finances. I like to call it micro to macro, because it starts with personal finances, goes through careers and entrepreneurial careers, all of which need financial background, and ultimately works right on into Wall Street, which is, as we know, the driver of a lot of things in this country. We want our kids to understand what happens on Wall Street. So in a nutshell, that's some of the things that make the program unique.
You know, one thing that I need to add, and I'd like you to add also, is the type of students or kids that we actually target.
Yes, this is the very unique part of the program, actually, because our target group are the kids, as we call them, on the bubble. The kids who, at the 9th grade level even, are being identified as students who could very well be dropping out of school before graduation and then have nowhere to go. So the program, MC Squared, when it's followed to the letter, keeps these kids in school. Our experience from Hartford was that 85% completed the program. 85% went on to college of some sort. Now, that doesn't mean all to a 4-year school. It could be a community college. It could be a trade school. It could be a variety of things. But anyway, education, post-high school education is important, which reminds me also of scholarship assistance. One of the very unique things about the program is that a 9th grader can be earning a scholarship. A 12th grader can be earning a scholarship. All 4 years, scholarships can be earned by these students, which then waits for them when they're ready to go on to school and is there in escrow.
I'm going to ask you one last question because I know you're very busy. I want you to tell the audience or the viewers of the support we have around the United States.
Yes, one can look at the website of MC2 Technology, Inc., and you will see a list of support people. And they come not only from Connecticut, and specifically the Hartford area, but there are individuals from Pennsylvania, from Kansas, from California, and just personally, again, because of people that I know and also that Sam knows, other parts of the country, Arizona, the Midwest, and so forth, are all places which looks at and supports the state of Vermont, right here in New England. has provided support for our MC2 program. So it is a program that we certainly accept donations from all over, because we're focusing on our kids, our U.S. kids. And as you like to say, and I agree with you, whether they're green, black, red, or white, or purple, we work with them all.
There's a lot of kids here that need your help. This is not the world of the north end of Hartford. This is sort of like sub-suburbia. But these kids need your help, need your funding. Please donate to MC2-NETS.org. That's my website. We need your help. Or you could call me, 860-212-8164. My name is Sam Cephas. I'm the executive director and founder of MC Square Technology. I'll see you next month. Thank you.
We must stop fighting to achieve the peace that was taught in our country. We shall all